there's a lot that can go into that answer. So it's definitely a thought-provoking question.
That's a hard choice. That's like asking me to choose my favorite cat amongst my pets. I don't know. I guess I'd have to go with Paul McCartney.
Okay.
I not only his work with the Beatles, but I have several of his solo albums as well.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I actually got to see him in concert a couple of years ago at the American Airlines Center.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
What is your favorite pizza place in Arlington?
My favorite pizza place? Well, it's not on my diet at present.
Okay.
But
Fair,
I love Mama's Pizza.
Okay.
In fact, we used to go to the location on South Cooper Street, really close to Arlington High School, for lunch all the time because they had this wonderful $5 pizza buffet. And it was less than a 5-minute walk from the school. So it was perfect.
Okay. This is the last question we have. If you were elected, what would be the first thing that you would hope to accomplish being on the council?
Honestly, my first thing that I would hope to accomplish would be tackling the issues with the water department.
Okay.
That would be the first thing I want to accomplish. Second thing I would want to work on is that there are some things lacking from our city charter. I would try to, well, actually, I have the verbiage. We were going to do this as a petition, Citizens for a Better Arlington. We were going to try to implement, initiative, referendum, and recall. Initiative would be a way for citizens to get ordinances on the ballot that could be passed. And it would also lower the threshold of signatures that you would have to get in order to put that on the ballot. And referendum is a mechanism if there's an ordinance that's been passed by council that you feel is overbearing or burdensome, it's a way for us to recall that ordinance and get it off the books. And of course, recall is what everyone knows of as, recalling elected officials that aren't representing the best interests of the people. So those are some things that need to be added to our charter.
Do you have anything else you'd like to tell the voters about yourself or about your platform?
I know some people are concerned that I won't have the time to devote to this, but my work at American Airlines is shift work, and I can be available to the people 4 days out of the week.
Okay.
So I know some people are concerned about that, and some people may say, oh, well, you're not endorsed by the police or the firefighters. The APA endorsement is typically a paid endorsement. And the endorsement from the firefighters, I talked with them at length, and I lost their endorsement by 1 vote. Yeah. I do support them and everything that they're dealing with right now, especially the staffing issues. So, I'm happy to work with the firefighters on anything that they need resolved.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming in. We really enjoyed it. We wish you luck in your running, and we're anxious to see how it turns out. And you're welcome back anytime.
Wonderful.
We really enjoyed it.
Look forward to it.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. We are here with Celia Morgan, who is running for City Council, District 5. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Amy is here as well.
Hello, you guys.
First and foremost, we just want to know, what made you decide to run for City Council, and why should people vote for you?
So I've actually been planning to run for City Council for more than 2 years. I actually officially bought my website domains 2 years ago. This is just something I've really always had a passion for. I've spent the last 15 years really working around getting young people engaged from the county level to the statewide level and then the national level, working on educating people about the importance of politics and how it affects our daily lives. And so this really was just kind of the next step for me. So I've been a lifelong resident in this district. I've spent my entire life in District 5, and my family has lived on that side on the east side of the district for 20 years. So this just kind of seemed like the right thing to do.
So what did you think about the term limits proposal? Did that factor any into your decision to run or what you want to accomplish?
So I did support term limits for a number of reasons. Personally, because as someone who's fought really hard to champion opening doors for young people to serve and to have opportunities for leadership, term limits really gives folks that opportunity. And so to have them reasonably is always a great way to make sure that young leaders can come in at the local level and really learn how to govern and then prepare themselves to run for higher offices later on down the line. So I'm really happy to see that it passed. It really did kind of change my perspective on running a little bit in that it's a much more crowded race than we anticipated. There's a lot more enthusiasm about it, which I think is great because historically in Arlington, our turnout for municipal elections is amongst the lowest in the state. We're talking about, particularly in my district, 22,000 registered voters in my district alone, and less than 3,500 of them have decided our city council representation for the last 12 years.
That's not a lot of people.
It's really not.
What would you like to see happen for Arlington, like in the next 5 years?
There's a lot of things I'd like to see us do. I've talked a lot on the campaign trail about transportation. And people really kind of freak out when you use the big T word, right? Because we've voted on transportation 3 times in the past and we've said no every time. But let's shed some clarity on that, right? The last vote we had on transportation was actually in 2002. That was 17 years ago. The population in the city has grown nearly double since the last vote that we had on transportation. Also, the last vote we had on transportation was for a bus plan. It wasn't inclusive of commuter rail or other options for rideshare. So we really didn't talk about comprehensive transportation. So that's really kind of something I've been talking a lot with folks about what that means. What does comprehensive transportation looks like? It's a combination of transportation options. It's rideshare, it's commuter rail, it's bus stops. It's a combination of things that make it work better for the city and for the city's visitors. And on the back end of that, we're taking traffic off the roads. We're saving money on road repair. We're keeping our public safety levels at an all-time high because we're having less accidents due to traffic congestion. But we're also making it much easier for folks to come in and visit our city and actually stay in the city and spend their money in the city. And so we're revving up economic influence on that end as well.
Excellent. Okay, so I have a question. It's a fun question I'm going to be asking all of the candidates. Who is your favorite Beatle?
And why?
And why?
Okay, this is going to get me in so much trouble.
Oh, no.
I don't have a favorite Beatle
Okay.
because for 2 reasons. One, because I wasn't a Beatles girl.
Okay.
I think I'm a little young for that generation. So when I grew up, it was the Monkees that were always on TV. But I also grew up very much a Texas rock girl. So I grew up on Pantera, and I am proudly a Pantera fan. Vinny and Darrel used to spend a lot of time at the bowling center that my grandparents ran for 40 years. So we were very, very close to them. And so I've always just been a rock and roll girl.
I think name dropping Pantera probably safe.
Right, and that's why we asked the question, because maybe you're not a Beatles fan, but we still get to know exactly what you are a fan of, and that's awesome.
So this is my hard-hitting question. What is your favorite pizza place in Arlington?
Hands down, Nizza Pizza.
Okay.
I know they've changed a lot in the last few years. They've become more franchise and independently owned, which is really cool. It gives more folks the opportunity to start up small businesses across the city. But I grew up with Nizza Pizza being the premier lunch spot across from my high school. And when we finally got to go off campus, it was the one place everybody wanted to go because you could get 2 slices and a soda for $3. It was stupid cheap. Right. And it was everything unhealthy that your body desired, right? It was greasy, it was cheesy, and it was always, always fresh. So I really love that place.
What would be, if you win, what would be the first thing that you would hope to accomplish?
So I've talked a little bit about this in certain environments because it's kind of hard to get all your stuff out when you're in these limited time frames. Having a lot of candidates means that we're often at town halls and forums unable to really convey all of our points, right? But the number one thing I want to accomplish out of the gate is what I want to build something called a coalition board. What that means is going from across my district in District 5 and bringing in neighborhood leaders, neighborhood association leaders, local activist groups, union representatives, minority group representatives, and bringing them all to a table so that we can really discuss and diagnose what the actual directives are for District 5 and how we can make that cohesive for the future. This would be a voluntary situation, kind of like our boards and commissions, but it would be specific to my district so that we can ensure we're meeting the needs of our residents at all times.
Amy, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I want to thank you very much for coming in. I'm looking forward to seeing how this election plays out. This is really exciting. Thank you so much. We'd love to have you back.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. We are here with Andy Pryor, who is running for District 5 City Council candidate. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. This is awesome.
Hi.
So we're just going to ask a couple questions, have a little conversation, let the voters get to know you a little bit. First question we have here is, why are you right for the office? Why do you want to run for City Council, and why should people vote for you?
That's more than one question.
Yes, it is. That's fair.
So
First
why,
three-part question.
Yeah, exactly. Why am I running? I'm running honestly because I think Arlington, especially District 5, has some areas that are maybe not currently being represented by City Council. I've lived in the area for almost half my life, starting when I was a little kid, coming back in my early 20s and really, establishing myself as a local resident, so to speak. And I realize, that's not really a reason, but I think it does open up my eyes to what's going on around me. And I think anybody who drives the east and central side of downtown Arlington essentially sees the difference between that part of Arlington and large portions of the rest of Arlington. So it's funny, my current job, I'm a financial advisor. Before that, I was a high school athletic director and track coach and things. And I find it kind of very pertinent that my jobs over the years have required me to listen really closely to what people say, hear the things they're not really saying. Maybe they're subconsciously not sure how to phrase the question. They're afraid to ask the question, whatever, and really try to analyze exactly why somebody is asking a question and what the real motivation behind the question is, and then start looking at solutions, especially solutions that maybe seem strange or weird or out of the norm for most everybody else, but trying to come up with solutions that really actually meet their underlying needs. I've been saying it on the trail so far. I can't help somebody financially as a financial advisor unless I really know what's really going on. And I have to really listen really closely, really carefully, and ask lots of probing, pertinent questions. And I think that's something that, to be perfectly fair and honest, has been missing on City Council in recent years.
Okay.
Great. What did you think about the term limits campaign, and how would that change the way that you would deal with only having a maximum of 2 terms on the City Council if you were to win?
3 terms.
3 terms, sorry.
No worries. That's totally fine. I think there's been a lot of confusion about the term limits, and you're not the first person to say something to me that maybe is due from that confusion. I said this in front of City Council, so it's public record that I said this way back in August when City Council voted to put it on the November ballot. I said flat out, I originally had no interest in being part of the term limits campaign, one way or the other. But what really kind of caught me short and made me realize that everybody in Arlington was going to be involved, whether they wanted to or not, was the last minute sort of efforts by City Council to make some changes to what was going to be appearing on the ballot in November. And I felt like that was ignoring the voice of the folks who signed the petition, and was an unfortunate way of handling it. And I felt like there were a number of people, myself included, who were going to just sit back and, stay out of it. But City Council kind of forced us to step forward and say, hey, this isn't right. This isn't, we need to handle this differently. Now, to the rest of your question, what do I do if I'm only on council for a maximum of maybe 6 years? Honestly, I think it's a good thing. I think the biggest problem we have in politics in America today, at all levels, local, state, federal, is people who say or see something that they think they can fix by getting involved and getting elected, And then once they get elected the first time, it's like they get this inoculation shot, and the next thing you know, they want to make a career out of it.
Right.
I've been joking with